How's it going, Starseekers? My name's Gotcake, and in this review we're going to be taking a look at a game called Jets and Guns 2. A side-scrolling shoot 'em up where you blast your way across the universe, either solo or with a friend, and get to customise your ship with a huge arsenal of weapons and power-ups to annihilate everything in your path, from the smallest of spaceships to the biggest of bosses. So Jets and Guns 2 is a sequel to the highly rated Jets and Guns, which was released on PC way back in 2014. Now if you've played the first game, Jets and Guns 2 appears to be very similar in terms of gameplay mechanics, but if you're new to the series, then you're in for a treat. So we begin our game at the main menu. Quickly checking out the options, we get some audio settings to adjust the volume levels, and the game's soundtrack is a pretty awesome combination of metal and chiptune music genres. Now we also have a few gameplay options which allow us to manage our HUD layout, and there's also one setting to turn a ship outline on to better allow us to dodge enemy projectiles amidst the carnage. So we begin a new game by creating a player profile. Here we get to select our game mode, which affects enemy toughness and the in-game currency system, and the game also includes a hardcore mode for Shmup masochists wanting a real challenge. You also have the option to play through Jets and Guns 2 in 2-player co-op mode, and although this is limited to local only, I still thought it was a fantastic inclusion. So after selecting our game mode, we then get to select our character portrait and name. The default is this Bruce Willis looking fella, but we also have a few others that we can select from, including the T-800 and Wesley Snipes, but of course I went for the only viable option, Eye Patch Duke Nukem, and I named him appropriately. Getting into the game, we get a tutorial level which runs us through the game's basic controls. The Y button fires our weapons, and we start with a couple of basic machine guns. Now each weapon in the game generates a certain amount of heat, and a temperature gauge next to our health bar in the top left indicates our heat level, and once we hit the red zone our weapons will stop firing until it drops back down a little. In addition to our guns, we also get access to bombs which we can drop using the B button, and our bomb count is seen as small orange icons below our temperature gauge, and they regenerate over time. Finally, the tutorial teaches us how to use devices. First, we need to fill our purple ultimate bar by collecting these purple orbs, and our starting device is this shield which blocks incoming enemy fire. We can have two devices equipped at once, but using one expends our whole bar. So after completing the tutorial, we're then taken to the ship hangar and shop. On normal mode, we begin with only a couple of shop items and more are unlocked as we complete missions, but in casual mode, the majority of items are unlocked right from the get-go. We can buy items from the shop using credits earned in mission, and our current credit count is found below our ship's cargo, but to begin with we can't actually afford anything from the shop, but we can head into the profile menu which allows us to customise our ship's appearance. Here we can change our ship's features such as its body shape, nose type, wings, engine fire colour and paint job, and I decided to give my ship a bit of an old school R-type makeover. Once we're happy with all this, we can head into the missions menu to begin our first level, Star City. Now gameplay in Jets and Guns 2 follows a pretty standard shmup formula. We work our way through levels destroying enemies and blowing shit up, and there's a good amount of variety to the types of enemies that you encounter as you play through the game. Personally, I thought the game's visuals were pretty fantastic. Jets and Guns 2 features around 10 standard levels, and every level's appearance is distinctly different, and it's clear that a lot of effort has been put into making them feel unique and incredibly detailed. The level of destruction in the game is also impressive, and a lot of joy comes from terrassing your way through levels, blowing up everything and everyone in your way. And despite the carnage, I never once experienced any frame rate issues whilst playing it on the Switch. So as you make your way through levels, you encounter several checkpoints enabling you to start over from them if you die, and there are also a number of different collectibles to find hidden away in levels. First we have secret rubber duckies to find and extraterrestrial hitchhikers, and I believe one of the two unlocks additional weapons for us to buy from the shop. There are also crates we can pick up in levels which we're able to unlock by hacking them, using a tool which requires us to play a snake minigame. If we manage to collect all the DOS, we gain access to its contents, but if we fail, the crate is destroyed and becomes useless. The final type of collectibles are secret levels. These include variants of existing levels like this Christmas themed version of the game's third level, or unique levels such as this one where we get to partake in a race and have to pass through each of the gates. Completing the levels usually awards us with unique equipment which have set bonuses, such as these two guns that when equipped together give you a giant turret on your ship which can rotate and shoot enemies from any angle. Now, the majority of the game's levels culminate in a boss battle. As with each level, these bosses are all unique, have great levels of detail to them and offer varied and challenging fights. Each boss has its own attack patterns and mechanics, and many of the boss battles are multi-phased, with bosses changing forms and mechanics partway through the fight. And it's here where I encountered my first issues, which were mainly centred around one simple fact. Just like platformers, when it comes to shmups, I'm pretty shite, and there was a bit of a difficulty spike at this particular boss and I just couldn't beat it. Now, you are able to replay levels to earn more credits, but on normal difficulty you only earn additional credits for beating a level with a higher score. I eventually decided to drop down to casual difficulty, which meant starting a whole new game, but in this mode you're able to earn additional credits every time you beat a mission regardless of your score, and I was then able to comfortably make my way through the rest of the game. So if you're like me and Turd or want to play the game with your kids, then casual difficulty is a great way to get into the genre. It still presents a little challenge, but it's much easier, and allows you to feel like a badass as you have access to powerful weapons early on, and you can gain enough money in levels to really play about with the ship customization. Now, Jets and Guns 2 allows for a huge amount of ship customization, catering for all sorts of playstyles, and I really can't cover them all, so I'll just give you a brief rundown of a standard ship loadout. First, we get to select our weapons, and we get 3 primary forward facing weapons and 1 rear weapon, and each weapon has a damage per second rating, fire rate and heat generation. An icon in the top right of the weapon information card also shows how many shots it fires at a time. After selecting our weapons, we can then head into the test range to try them out against different targets. Next, we can have modifiers for each gun which have a variety of effects, such as increasing the damage output, adding an auto aim to them, or allowing us to manually aim them using the right thumbstick. We're also able to equip 1 set of missiles and 1 type of bomb, both of which have various fire patterns and effects. As mentioned before, we can equip 2 types of device which provide various effects such as shields, damage buffs, heals and powerful ultimate attacks. And finally, we have 6 equipment slots which allow further modification of our ship, providing us with things like reduced temperature gain, increased cooldown speeds, a shield which blocks damage and regenerates over time, or nanobots which slowly heal us. Now, the game does feature a huge assortment of weapons and items, and a lot of fun comes from just creating different combinations and seeing how well your ship performs against different enemies and bosses. Once you've played your way through the whole game and beaten the end boss, you then get to continue your game in a new game plus type scenario. You get to keep all your gear and the game mode remains the same, but difficulty is increased and the shop is stripped back a little, and you can do this as many times as you want, or look to take on harder game modes if you want more of a challenge. So in all, I actually had an absolute blast playing Jets and Guns 2, and it's by far one of the most enjoyable shoot 'em ups I've played this year, and I'd go so far as saying that this is possibly going to be a hidden gem depending on how well the game does on release. So now we come to rating the game. Now, I rate games between 1 and 5 stars, with a shovelware stamp of approval reserved for the worst games on the eShop. This rating is based on my own personal opinion on what a game has to offer in terms of gameplay and value for money to potential buyers. And for a rating, I'd give Jets and Guns 2 4 out of 5 stars. If you like shmups, I'd highly recommend adding Jets and Guns 2 to your collection, and even if you don't really play this type of game, its difficulty settings make it very accessible, and it has a ton of different mechanics going on that add value to the already excellent destructive gameplay. Jets and Guns 2 releases on the 26th of August on the Nintendo Switch, and you can pick it up on the UK Switch eShop, currently with 20% off for £9.35, or on the US eShop for $11.99. Alternatively, the game's also available on Steam. Hey Starseekers, I hope you enjoyed this review, and if you did, hit that like button and let me know your thoughts on the game in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe for future Switch indie game reviews and content, and jump onto the Starseekers Discord to join its growing community. For now though, I just want to thank you all once again for watching, and until next time, game on.